Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Imuna. I pray everybody is doing well. Welcome to the discussion and the conversation. I know. You already know. It's good to see you. Welcome back. If you're new, you don't know, welcome. And I like to say you don't know, so, welcome. Click the like, subscribe, share button, all that lovely, good stuff. So I'm going to jump right in. Sister reached out to me and was like, Amuna, can you do a video on fathers and daughters? I was like, all right, that sounds cool. I could do a video on fathers and daughters. But then the sister say, it's a younger sister, so shout out to you, that she's been listening to Cutno. And y'all know that gives me an itch. Cutno gives me an itch. She blocked me many years ago because I saw the way she was presenting her information and the things that she was doing to get the people. There's some people on social media who take your source spaces and continue to re-injure you in those spaces and then exploit those spaces so that they can get, put on. And what I realized is that weirdly, people like that kind of stuff. Don't know why. Some people, not all. And this is where all of the following, and because they have a big following, it must means what they're doing is right. Not always. So when I heard that Cutno was involved in some of the conversation, I was like, here we go. Anywho, because I've already done a little bit of intel and research on her, I wanted to talk a little bit about the subject that was asked of me, which is fathers and daughters, and a statement that was made about the father giving you your worth. If you're a daughter, right? If you're a young girl. As oftentimes when you're dating or when you're going out there in the world, people will say you have daddy issues. If the girl is insecure, if she is untrusting, if she's loose, if she's promiscuous, if she's all of these things, oftentimes it's attributed, you would hear daddy issues, father issues. So then we must ask ourselves, or I ask myself, is there some truth to it, right? What does the father or the male figure in the life of the young girl has to do with how she perceives herself and how she interfaces with the opposite sex? Well, fathers are important. For the young woman, the young girl, he's the first representation of the male. It's like, let's rewind a little bit. And welcome to those who just joined us. Let's rewind. All right, boom, we're new into this brand new place, right? It's a brand new place. And we are associative in our minds. This stove is hot. The sun is yellow. You know what I mean? That's how we learn, even as a child. We're associative so that we can understand our environment, right? And we do that with everything. Grass is green. You're going to look at the character, the characteristics and the attributes and all of these things. And you're going to log these things in your files, in your mind, okay? So when you see the people and you're telling them, you have to tell the child, this is why the first time the child says it, you're like, yeah, you said it, okay? So a man appears. Okay, to the child, the little soul, there's like, oh, okay, this is a different person, has a beard, not like the other person, because in there, imagine you're just new on the scene, not like the other person, a little bit more bigger, not like the other person being the mother or the caretaker, right? So the person, like the child's like, okay, there's some difference here, and then the person comes to you and says, Dada, say Dada. Okay, so this is now associating Dada with this person, this male. Okay, so now as you continue to grow, you're looking at this male and this word, Dada, or father, and this male and the behaviors of this male and how this male makes you feel, even as a little child growing, how this male treats you. Does this male protect you? Does this male give you words that are encouraging? Does this male disparage you? Does he ignore you? Does he secure you, right? Because that's your first impression. That's your first understanding of what I'm looking for. When we say this word, when we say male, when we say father, when we say whatever, it's the same thing. So in that respect, for me, if we look at how the young girl's mind is being shaped and formed, it's like, okay, subconsciously, because remember, 0 to 7, a lot of those memories and thoughts are buried in our subconscious. They happen We sometimes remember, we sometimes don't, but they didn't go anywhere. They're still there. So oftentimes as we grow, we are getting our perception of ourselves or our acceptance of ourselves from the opposite sex, from the way we were perceived or the way we were accepted by that first male impression. For some, hey, what's up, sis? Whether it be your father, whether it be your uncle, whether it be your older brother, for some people who don't have the father there, this male figure is, and how they made you feel. Because even when we don't have words to express, we do have feelings. So oftentimes we go after the familiar feeling. Okay? So the self-worth or the perception does, to a certain degree, extend from how that male made you feel. As we grow, as women, then you begin to go out, consciously or subconsciously, because what's going on, sis? Oftentimes people say, I don't know why I like this person. Everybody else around you could be like, yo, that person is whack. That person is the worst. I don't even know why you talking to dude. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, you know what I'm saying? All the women start to be like, yo, sis, you fly. And you don't know why. You began to be magnetically attracted to the person who on an energetic level is going to make you feel how that male made you feel. Oftentimes the first impression, because we're talking about how impressionable the soul is and what lingers with us and stays with us. So more often than not, whether we verbalize it or not, we have within us that brokenness. The other day, and I was going to come and talk about it, but I was in the middle of it. Don't know how I got over to this thing, but I was watching one of these shows on Discovery Plus, right? So, and it just happened. So the girl was like, she became a lawyer, but she had a father who was, nothing was ever good enough. If she wrote everything that she can write perfectly, if she forgot a comma, Pops would be like, oh, you forgot the comma though. So she's chasing this acceptance and this thought that if I become perfected in his eyesight, then I will be acceptable. She actually verbalized, and it hit me, right? She verbalized like, if she was perfect in this space, then she would be worthy of love. Because the male finger, hey, what's going on, Charlene? Long time, all the way no see, wagwan. So she would say, if I was perfected in all of this area, then I would be worthy of love. So oftentimes the female leaves the father figure, that person who gave you that initial impression, and goes out into the world looking for somebody, consciously or subconsciously, and more often than not it's subconsciously, to make you feel just like how he made you feel. So it goes two ways. It can go both ways. Like, so say you a daddy's girl, say you spoil, say you got everything you ever wanted, right? You could do no wrong, because there's all these different type of father types. I'll have to probably talk about that another day. But let's say the one who, you're my princess, your foot can't touch ground, and everything you do is perfect, and nobody not good enough for you. This person, that she got her sense of self, whether it is justified or unjustified, from that male figure. So when she goes out into the world, nobody's ever good enough. The dude can't give blood, him can't give him left kidney, him right toenail, it don't matter. Whatever he does, it's never good enough, because my daddy put me so high up on this pedestal that, so therefore every relationship she goes about getting into, she's looking to make this dude into her father, which he could never be, and therefore it fails. She's never satisfied because nobody's ever good enough. On the other side, say she didn't get she didn't get validated by the father or the father figure. She didn't get accepted. Whether she was verbally abused or physically abused or emotionally distant, whatever it is, she then now goes out oftentimes. And if the guy is good and he comes to you like, yo, I love you, I want to, you're like, oh, wow, there's something wrong with you. Why are you being so nice? You know what I'm saying? Because she's not accustomed to love. She's not accustomed to being on that. She thinks something is weird. Even though she wants love, she will say verbally, I want love, I want acceptance. When somebody comes along with like, I want to treat you right, and you be like, who sent you? You understand? But here comes y'all already know. Here comes the person who's a suspect of character, and she's like, I don't know, there's something about him. And everybody else around you is like, yo, sis, go inside. Yo, sis, what is wrong with you? It's like, yo, there's something about him. And oftentimes she may go about trying to fix the dude. Fix him. She's trying to improve him. Why? Because there's something in the depths within her that says, if I can make him become what I always wanted my father to be, then. So we go about trying to, males and females do it, but we talk about daddies and daughters, so we're going to rock with it. Go about trying to fix in the individual that initially attracted you to them, that brokenness, that same feeling. You want to go in there and tinker in hopes that you can make this person whole, or make this person love you, and by extension finally be accepted by the person who rejected you. But the reality is, it doesn't work like that. We may try, but to no avail. Sorry, it don't work like that. So do you get a level of your self-worth or self-acceptance from your father or your mother if you're male? Yes, because they are the first impression of what you're to be expecting in the world from this type of person. And oftentimes the husband, he takes over in the space of, he's supposed to provide for you, he's supposed to protect for you, he's supposed to do all the things that initially this person, which when you were born into this world, when you got your script, right? And everybody's like, okay, this person is going to play the father. This person is, okay, this person played your father. I know people like, well, Moody, you be looking at it wild. I look at it wild because it makes sense to me. You're in a movie. You just got your lines. You're born. And you have all these people who were here before you. Such is going to play your mother. This person's going to play your father. This person's going to play your older sibling. You know what I mean? This is going to play your cousin. You're born into it. So here you are. And you have to learn all these people while you're learning yourself. So when we grow up, so where does that leave us? Because I'm not going to stay too long. Then I'm going to read a little bit about from the book, because I think it's interesting and it speaks to this. It doesn't leave us nowhere. What we can do is not run away from it if it feels uncomfortable when we talk about it, right? Acknowledge honestly, because in some spaces it doesn't allow us to look at our parents in a certain way, because we honor your mother and your father. So if you look at your mother and your father in a certain way, the thought is that, oh, it's not honorable. The only way it's not honorable is if the way you're looking at them is in truth and they were dishonorable, right? So some people are afraid to look at our parents in a way where we take off the rosy colored glasses and see it for what it is, because it's going to change the way we see them. But in the healing process, you have to take a look at what it is for what it is. And when you do so, you can begin to unravel some of the things that was you specifically and some of the things that was the person. And 9 times out of 10, as a parent, as I'm growing and you're looking at your children, sometimes it's them, but a lot of times it's you, right? And so as the parent, and so when the child thinks that it's about them, it's really about that parent who has a higher level of being able to see over the table. It's really about that parent's perception, that parent's own experiences, that parent's own unhealed trauma. And how they project that. If you have a parent who, in the sense of father, this is specifically for the sister who asked me about fathers. If you have a father who doesn't or has a mother issue, therefore they're going to have a woman issue. Therefore they're going to have, oftentimes, not all, an issue with interfacing with women. And since you are born of the female persuasion, he by extension is going to transfer his issue with women that so oftentimes stemmed from before you were even born onto you, right? So you may be feeling this rejection, you may be feeling this unloved, you may be feeling this distance and thinking, because as children we then oftentimes internalize it and think it's us, when in actuality it's not you, it's them. And so hopefully that helps a little bit if you begin to jot down some of your experiences, some of the things, some of the gaps, some of the holes, some of the shortcomings, some of the things that you were looking for that you never got. Was the person overly whatever fill in the blank, or were they aloof? Did they meet your needs, or did they, all of these things. And once you get it there, then you can see and kind of look in your life to see, okay. Once we get that, we understand that some of the things that we accept is not worth accepting. Once we heal the initial trauma, then all of the symptoms, all of the byproduct, so to say, will begin to unravel, and they will begin to fall off. I'm not going to stay long today, y'all. I'm usually hyped, but I'm not hyped. But I did say I was going to talk about this, so I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to read a little bit from the very first time. Shout out to those who have joined us. What I found on my own journey of asking questions, that's why I'm very big on if the door is open, and if your parents, grandparents, family members, whoever is willing to have the discussion with you, let them have the discussion. My grandparents, my grandmother in particular, if you catch her on a good day, like me anyway, because I always ask questions, she'll talk. But you just got, I don't know, it'd be like a good day. Once she talk, boom, my pen is out. Because her mind is very sharp. Like, she will remember when it was, you know what I mean? And she taking you back to 19 years old. And I'm like, man, you remember all of that? So it really depends on who you have. If you have a talker, sit down with your pen and paper, not with any specific objective in mind. Just gather data. Because what I found on this journey is that just write it down. Because they may answer questions before you even knew to ask the question, or before you even began to search for it. So stuff that I asked years ago that I just wrote down years later, I was like, oh, okay, right? And you start to fill in the blanks. So in this particular case, Eze in the story, who's the mother of the main character, she's a daddy's girl. That's why I'm gonna read this portion. She's a daddy's girl, and her mother. I'm just going to walk the story up. Her mother decided to leave Jamaica or the Caribbean to come to America. It's Jamaica in the story, right? And so she takes the siblings and she leaves, and hey, Lakeisha, welcome to the conversation. And she comes to America. Remember, this young girl is a daddy's girl. And even though she came and wanted to come, she didn't want to leave her father. So years later, 4 to be exact, 4 years passed, right? So I'm just going to read a little touch. 4 years had passed, and there were still no signs of Eze's father joining them in America. Dada, you have to come, she pleaded in a 4-page letter she sent earlier that month. I miss you something terrible. I know you don't like the cold, but please come. Eze finally convinced her father to leave Jamaica. She was a junior in high school, and it had been 4 long years since she last saw him. A few days before he was set to arrive, Eze bumped into Marcus. So I'm going to stop there. If you follow the story, Marcus is now this love interest of this young girl who is a daddy's girl, right? And has been separated from her father for a while, which made it a bit of an issue. And now here comes another male figure who's young, but she doesn't know why she's attracted to him. Let me say this. In watching that show, what's the name of that show? Ready to Love. I'm analyzing and watching certain things and trying to put some of the stuff I've been studying into practice. Not every time we are attracted or we vibe with somebody energetically is it good. Oftentimes we say, oh, I feel something, but I don't know what it is. Pause. Right? Pause, because it may be from the space of this is so familiar that it feels correct, or I feel the pull, or it may be on another level. And more often than not, if we are unhealed, it is the familiar dysfunction that we are attracted to. Right? And just because, they like to say, I was like, this show is very interesting. I don't know how many people have seen it, but they like to say, oh yeah, I have a connection with this person. I have a connection with that person. You can have a connection with Scam Likely. Scam Likely knows your phone number, and Scam Likely calls you. They have a connection because they know your phone number. That doesn't mean it's good. The bill collector has a connection. You understand what I'm saying? And so oftentimes we say that, especially when we're just meeting somebody, because we want to be optimistic and we want to feel like, oh, this can go somewhere. But if we have unhealed trauma, 9 times out of 10, what we're feeling, that thing that makes us, it's really just that speaking to whatever it is within that other person, because this energy travels faster than we're able to unravel. So as time goes on, we see why. So for instance, I was looking and observing this couple, and they have 2 choices. And I'm saying to myself, this dude should not go with that girl, right? And he was, because the girl, she was forward, she was pushing forward, and she was doing all this stuff, and she made it easy. The other girl was a bit reserved, and she was like, okay, it's going to take me time. And because he wanted to feel like he was progressing, how many times we wanted to feel like we were progressing, so we go the easier route as opposed to the route that's going to take some more work. So when he's choosing the girl who's making it easy, I'm like, bro, wrong choice. I just keep saying to myself, wrong choice, wrong choice, wrong choice. And the other girl felt it so much till she just backed out. She was like, I bet y'all got it. Would you know that at the end of that season, in the season finale, he breaks it off with the girl who made it easy because he came to the realization that was the wrong one. I mean, the way he did it was grimy, because he waited to the show to tell her he went back to the girl who made it a little bit harder. But my point is, we can hype ourselves up. We can gas ourselves. Speaking from hallelujah experience, hallelujah. Sorry, I had a moment. But we can gas ourselves up because we want to believe a story, or we want to believe a narrative, or we want something to be true, right? And people could come with information and they can tell us, but we don't want to hear it at that point. Oftentimes we only come back on the back and be like, why you didn't tell me? And oftentimes that's the subconscious, that's the unhealed trauma that's speaking to us, trying to allow us to continue to enter back into that loop, and keep looping. So yes, daddy-daughter relationships are important. Yes, a broken relationship with your father can compromise your sense of self-worth, right? It can compromise your sense of self-worth, how you perceive yourself, how you feel about yourself. It doesn't mean that you are not worthy. It means how you feel about what you're worth, or whether or not you're willing to accept what you're worth because you don't feel it. It's like, for instance, y'all know I like for instances. You have something and you go to, what do you call that? Go back over there. You just see somebody. You go to one of those antique shows because you want them to tell you they're the expert, and you want them to tell you how much whatever you have is worth. So you already possess the thing. You are already the soul. You're already having the experience. But in the eyes of the male perspective, if you're a female, you want to know how much that exchange is worth to them. You can be very worthy, but if you're going to the wrong person, I saw a meme of some sorts that says, what was it? It was like somebody wanted to sell an antique car. I don't know if you guys saw it. Like a car that has been in a garage for 20 years, and the person wanted money, and first they go to the used car dealership and they offered them like $1,000, and then they went to somewhere else and they offered them like some nominal amount, and then finally they went to a car collector, someone who would appreciate the value of this, pristine 1992, whatever it was, because that's the person is specialized. Like, especially in marketing, they tell you niche down, because the general people or the general public may not value that. But if you niche down and you have like the stamp collector with the rare, only 10 coins minted, then they will be willing to spend whatever it needs to be for that thing. But you have to know that I'm worth it. And oftentimes the relationship between the father, whatever she's looking for, like I said, and I'm gonna wrap it up because I'm summarizing here. Whatever she's looking for, oftentimes it's either was overcompensated or was undercompensated. And she then goes out looking to fill that void and that gap. So you are worthy. You may not feel that you are worthy. You may be struggling with accepting, or you may be struggling with giving. It really depends on your situation, and it depends on the variables that were present. in that space. It also depends how the feminine principle played into that, how your mother or those around you also made you feel. Because and I'll just say why I said it and then I'm gonna wrap it up. If the women around you say, this is how you get the man's attention, you whatever, you switch your behind, you put your titties up to your neck, however they say you get the attention, right? Remember, you already have this deficit, or you already have this excess, whatever you have that was created in the pot from the male masculine principle. And then you have the advice or the example of the feminine. And then if you're following that advice and you're still not getting what you're looking for, then it makes the whole feel even bigger and bigger. So it's synergistic. It's not just one side, right? Because how you interface with the male is dependent upon how the female told you or taught you to interface with the male, which is then going to be going to determine whether or not you actually get what it is that you're looking for. So if the cycle is messed up on both sides, if the example, hey, shalom, sister, what's going on? If it's messed up on both sides, you'll find yourself feeling like, where do we go from here? This is not working, right? Analyze it. Take a look at it. If your father's alive and willing to speak, have a conversation. Your mother's alive, willing to speak, have a conversation. Ask them about how they met, if they're willing to talk to you about it. Write it down. You're not going to remember every detail, more than likely. And step away from it a little bit if you can give yourself some distance from it. Because I promise you, a lot of what you possibly experience is transference. It's transference. If the parent is dissatisfied with the mate, which would be your parent, your mother or whomever, if they're resentful, if they're angry, if they're overcompensating, if they, whatever it is they did on the excessive, the positive or negative side, is going to oftentimes not be about you. I'm sorry to say. Oftentimes it's not about us. We think it is. So with that said, hopefully that helped a little bit. You know, be careful when you're out here with some of these, as we saw with the Derek Jackson fiasco. Be careful, like especially a real cut no. You know, I tried to just talk with that lady a few years ago, but it was clear that she didn't want to speak. She just wanted, you know, be careful when you're in an echo chamber. That's why I'm always inviting people to have conversation. Always like drop it in the box below, come through, you could come on the camera, because one person doesn't know it all. And if we're in an echo chamber and we are not able to challenge ideas, if we're not able to grow, if we're not able to say, wait a minute, you said this, but I'm not sure about that because this and this and this. If we're not able to do those things, then we create these very dangerous, tricky doctrines that trap people and really only give them the way out. Oftentimes when things are set like that, the way out is only buy my course. You know what I mean? Come, like her particular thing is, come let me teach you in my wife's school. Let me teach you how to do all of these things that's going to make you keep a man or get a man. And so a lot of women who are coming out of the churches, a lot of women who are looking to get a husband and thinking that, you know, this and this and this is wrong with them, then she, you know, brings you to tea parties and do all this stuff and then say, this is how you're going to secure a man, a husband. Right? And so I don't even want to go down that slippery slope again, boy. That slope is slippery. Sister Mayana and myself, we reviewed her book. Oh man, what's the name of the book again? Man Leads, Women Follow, I think it is. A couple of years ago, we reviewed the book. The book was an entire lift. It was an airlift of some books that were already written during that time, during the 50s and the 60s, Man of Steel and all of this stuff like this. Because, you know, when we go to research, like, we digging it in. So we dug out some of this stuff. I'm like, what in the world? You airlifted? So, yeah, this is an airlifting of a thought process that says, if you do all of these things, this person is going to love you. This person is going to, and if the person is going to love you at the expense of you, right? At the expense of your well-being, you have to ask yourself, are you willing to pay that price? Because oftentimes people gravitate towards people like this because of injury, because of brokenness. So if they're not offering healing solutions, and they're offering that if you follow this program, then I'm going to make you into this Stepford wife that's going to ensure you get the husband. Don't ask him no questions after 5 o'clock. Make sure you under the table and rubbing his toe, and make sure you comb his hair to the side. And it's like, so this person becomes this empty vessel that is hollowed and only has her, there was one, I don't know how I got over here, but the sister said, if you out with the husband and he said that he knows how to build a plane, you supposed to say, I'm sorry. Deborah says, truth is, it is messed up from both sides. You will be out of sync, and it could turn into a deadly dance between two celestial bodies. Yeah. We're supposed to, I said it before, we are helping one another on this journey. This journey is temporary. So if you have to lose your very sense of self to be with another person, you have to ask yourself many questions. You got some questions to ask yourself. Brokenness needs mending, not another hammer to be slapped. Yeah, that's basically what's happening, sis. And, it's sad, and when I see it to the best of my ability, I share. Like, I just came across something else, but I'm not going to front. Your girl tired, man. There's so much madness in the world. I be like, let me just lean my seat back a little bit. Can I just, and then the children are growing. So you're like, it's easier to bend a tree when it's young. So you see your children and you're like, I'm going to work right here. You know what I mean? Like, my daughter had me having like a whole solonomic session this morning. I'm like, my goodness, girl. You know what I mean? But you see, what I'm seeing is, like they say, it's easier to bend a tree when it's young, is that in the formative years when we're young and we're more malleable and can bend, if you're not there and present to be on it while it's happening, and you wait and then it becomes a part of who they are. It becomes solidified in themselves and their characters, and it becomes harder to change this stuff, right? So sometimes we're so busy that we're not seeing that soul is kind of slipping and saying, like, this is my copingism. This is how I'm going to deal with it. This is how. So even in the conversation I was having with my daughter today, I was like, yo, tell me a thought that you think, and let's examine it. I know people be like, why you always trying to examine stuff? That's just who I am. You understand? Sarai, what's going on, sis? Why are you always trying to examine stuff? If I make a statement, like I saw a brother, he wrote me a long thesis, and I was just not in the headspace. But I was like, yo, if you say I'm wrong, give me time marker and go in respectfully. Like, I don't agree here, and here, and this is why. You know what I'm saying? And it's either going to be a subjective observation or an objective observation. How else are we going to be able to come to certain conclusions if we like, wait a minute, you just said such and such. Let's examine that to see if it's true. We tell ourselves lies about ourselves, about other people. We make up and concoct how we want to tell the story. For instance, you ever drive on the road and you see two people standing there outside of their car, and the next person is crying. You don't know what happened. Right away, your mind goes to be like, well, maybe, or maybe it's just my mind. I don't know. But you start like, well, maybe such and such, and that's why, and da-da-da-da. They call you conspiracy theorists or whatever. But you start all of a sudden piecing stuff together. Children do it all the time. I'd be like, where did y'all get? They just need one little tight piece of information. Mommy said that after we go to the store, she about to come back and make. I'd be like, when did I say all that? What did I say? We do it with conversation with people. Somebody says one thing, and then you have this long, elaborate story about why they said what they said and how they said it. And they be like, I didn't say that. Like, tell me what you heard me say. Because when the person is speaking, oftentimes, we weaving in our mind. We weaving. So how do we get around that misunderstanding? Put it back out there. So the person could clear it up like, nah, bro, I didn't say that. Nah, sis, where did you get that from? Because if we leave it, then they begin building more, or we begin building more and more and more and more and more on it, until we've convinced ourselves that this is what happened. I have to go back to the book because that's what happened in the book. It's real to me because I told you guys it's kind of autobiographical, and that's what happened, is that we have misunderstandings in life and we grow apart, and then we make up our own thought processes until we forgot totally what the truth was. Like how I totally forgot how I got on this tangent. Yeah, bending the tree when it's young. So I say all that to say, sometimes when we're older, it's just like over it. You know what I mean? It's hard enough trying to heal the self. It's like, man, we like the foolishness. That's what I have come to conclude after all these years. We like the hype. We like the foolishness. We like the distractions. We like somebody either to speak smooth things to us or to rile us up by saying raunchy things, only for us to be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you said. But if we come level-headed, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that. We should help people, but we can't help each other unless we're willing to be helped first. This is real talk. This is real talk. Save yourself. Save yourself, girl. Save yourself. Okay, you got to examine things, sis. Yeah. Save yourself, man. That's where we at. There's people who have for years know the right thing to do. They've been reading the Bible for longer than you've been alive. You know what I mean? They can tell you inside and out. They can quote chapter and verse. They're in whatever their spiritual system is, and they know all the right things to do and right things to say. And when time comes, make a whole nother choice. That's something that we're like, oh, can we help everybody? Would it be so? Would it be so? You know what I mean? But life has taught me, like, they don't want it. It's easier for some people to stay in the state that they are because it's comfortable. Yeah, we have lively imagination. I'm a kid at heart, so I still got a lively imagination. But you know, I see that in misunderstandings. I'll say this and that in misunderstandings, if you are married or wedded to your perception of what happened versus actually getting the truth to what happened, then stay with that. You know what I mean? But if you are willing, if you're a person of growth and you're willing to, if you're willing to actually get to truth, then you're going to have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? You're going to have to, there's one more daddy issues one. I keep saying that's the end, but the daddy issue thing. So I was doing my research. Y'all leave me alone. I was doing my research, right? So this young girl on one of the things, the Spanish girl, her father left her and her grandparents raised her. So her grandparents is loving and everything, and they were there, but the father left her. So even though the male figure was there, the one who she wanted to be there wasn't there. And so she was having issues in her marriage, and it was a young girl in her young 20s, and she goes to the father finally when she realizes, she goes to therapy and realizes that she has to find out what's going on here. She had questions like abandonment issues. Why did you leave me? Why didn't you come back? And she came to realize that it's the father that had his own issues going on. Right? But as a young child, you weave the narrative. It's because I'm not worthy of love. It's because of this. It's because of that. And only if I did this and only if I did that. So what made her marriage, the first marriage that she had, what made it compromised is because she took all that baggage and put it on this man. Right? And so you went to the bar with your friends and you didn't come back for me. And she's having this meltdown and the dude is looking at her like, are you sure you're well? You know what I mean? But he's not realizing that he's trying to fill a hole or a void that he didn't create, and he doesn't even know the depth of it. You know what I mean? It's like stepping into deep waters. And you know, you step into something and you think or you miss a step in the pool, and next thing you know, you underwater, and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know that was there. That's kind of how some of our emotional voids are. We expect people who don't even know the depth of it, the bottom of the floor. I remember when I was young and I used to swim in the pool, my uncle used to have 6 feet, right? So you go into the 6 feet and you looking for the bottom and how long I could hold my breath till my foot touched this ground to see if I have enough energy to push myself back up. You start fretting like, because you didn't understand the depth of that water, right? And that's kind of how it is when we are underwater in other people's problems, who are not willing to do the work to say, this is the floor right here. This is the basis. This is where the issue is stemming from. So that the person who you're looking to kind of help work through it with you actually understands. You know what I mean? Instead of like, you didn't do it. It's not them. It's not them. Step away. Step away. It's not them. You missed the daddy issue, sis? Yeah, that one was crazy. People take it as a challenge, but it's growth. We have to verify and quality. We sure do. We sure do. I'll be like, where you got that from? Who told you that? Where you got that from? Like, who told you that? Like how the Most I said to Adam, where you got that from? If we ain't learned nothing for the garden, you better ask some questions. Where did you get that from? All day long, let my children roll around with a piece of... I'm like, whoa, where did you get that from? You know what I mean? Because you got to check it out. Anywho, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Everybody continue to have a blessed day. Hopefully, sis, that was helpful. You know, each one teach one, each one help one. That's my thoughts. It's going to take some work. It's equivalent to the dude with the mother issues. Oh. All right, everybody. Have a blessed day. We'll talk once again. Okay, it doesn't want me to go. Press finish.